Hello, folks. We've hit the top of the hour. We only have three of you on. Give it a couple more minutes. Unfortunately, Lawrence, you didn't put anything on the agenda. You submitted slides that I approved, but you hadn't put anything on the agenda. So I just added it to the agenda this morning, but I don't know if some people may have seen an empty agenda and decided not to come on.
Oh, okay.
So you have to remember to add something to the agenda so that people can see that it's there. Anyway, let's see if other people show up, and if not, then it can just be a discussion between the three of you.
Okay.
I'll give it a couple more minutes. I'm going to have to step out at some point. There's an electrical inspector coming to the house sometime between 10 and 10:30 my time. So you guys can talk while I'm not on anyway. So. That's an effect I haven't seen on MeetEcho before. I see Vadim now as a de-emphasized dotted line bordered thing, and now he's back. I wonder what that meant. All right, it's just gone 03 and no one else has joined. Lawrence, why don't you go ahead and put up your slides, and you and Joe and Vadim can discuss them.
Okay. Let's see. So
There should be a share slides button next to the hand. There's to the left of the hand. There's one. Share slides, and I think I have to approve it.
Okay.
Pass slides control. Yes. Okay. There we go. All right.
Okay, we got Ira also. Okay, I've already had this discussion with Joe. So I think it's just Ira and Vadim and all these slides is trying to, whoops, they're not showing correctly. What's with that? Something is missing from the slides. I'm not sure what went wrong here. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can figure out what's that about. this isn't going to work unless those slides are right. I don't know what happened here. I mean, it's just missing some of the content from the slide.
Can you create a PDF and try using that?
That's what I thought I did. I have to switch to a different computer.
Oh, well then try to go the other way then.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
you can always go with sharing your screen and just, put the original on your screen.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about this. Just give me a minute here.
I'll just have to go outside for a minute.
Okay, come on in when you're ready.
I didn't realize the transfer switch is all the way over here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize it was unmuted just then.
Okay, let's see. Okay, can you see my screen now?
I'm still seeing the same broken slide.
Yeah, I just had to approve the screen sharing, so I just did that.
Okay. Now, can you see it?
Huh. No, when I click the grant screen, it doesn't seem to do anything.
I think we have to stop sharing.
Yeah, maybe let's take the sharing away and then try grant screening. There we go. That works.
Okay.
Yeah, that's coming up.
This technology stuff,
Okay. Still not sharing, right?
Yeah, I still don't see it.
Okay, that problem is mine. I have to restart Firefox because of the browser permissions. Okay.
Yeah, I see you're back. I am granting screen sharing. There you go.
Yeah, that's not flying either.
Okay, we see it now.
Okay, wow, yeah. Well, good to know. Firefox has lots of protections. Okay. So just a small number of us, so please stop and ask questions if you have them. So, um, so the point of this slide is just to describe how the different serializations that we've been talking about, how they relate to each other. So at the bottom of this, the slide is the list of serializations that CBOR very intentionally allows to be variable for the purpose of working in constrained environments. If it wasn't for that, these things could all be locked down. So, for example, you don't want us to have to sort every map because it's expensive, and then you want indefinite lengths for streaming, but not all the time. So you have this variability introduced just for the purpose of constrained environments. So preferred serialization, this is described in section 4.1, primarily of RFC 8949, requires shortest length encoding of all the integers, shortest length encoding of floats. It's got some ambiguity about nans. It has a preference for definite lengths, and it requires unification of the number space for integers and big numbers. And I've, basic serialization. The point is these layers are additive. So you add definite length as a requirement above this for basic. In preferred, it's just definite lengths are described as a preference. So draft CBOR CDE adds basic serialization as a requirement, and then at the top, the only thing that's missing to get full determinism is the map sorting. So the real point of this is just to confirm everybody understands and agrees that this structure, that you start out with this variability, and you in 3 layers as depicted here, you add further restriction. One of the reasons I made this slide and I'm spending time here is I'm actually not clear that everybody agrees with this and understands it this way, partly because the term CDE has been used to describe a lot of the characteristics that I think are characteristics of preferred serialization. Like the whole NAN discussion has been in the context of CDE, where I believe it is firmly in the category of preferred. So let me stop there and just see if there's any questions or comments.
Yeah, as we were talking about, I think that bottom layer should have some kind of name one day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Particularly when you look at it like this, it's like, we should
Yeah.
have a name for that, just so that we
Yeah.
can point to it.
Yeah.
And say, oh.
I've been I've been hesitant. I hesitated to do that because that's a new name creates more confusion.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Understood. Rowan was joking around and said Postelion. So I think on the decode side, that means you're willing to decode any slop. On the encode side, it means you're also being uncareful at best, or you've got some sort of constraint where you just always send out 4 bytes, for example, of size, because for some reason it's less code for you.
right. Or you're streaming.
Yeah. Yeah, I would
wouldn't-
say streaming's probably the most likely case.
So it's not a kind of serialization, but they're the things that remain variable, right? For constrained or streaming applications or devices.
I would say maybe one way of thinking about this is a general purpose decoder should be able to decode all of this.
Yeah, I think there's we're kind of going off into some discussion here, but that's certainly fine by me. There's what you write in a specification, and then there's what general decoders do. We have no normative definition of generic decoders. There's some non-normative text, but I don't think it's clear and it's not normative. So if you're writing a spec for a protocol that uses CBOR, you have to say something about serialization. In my opinion, if you don't, then you have a protocol that's might not interoperate.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, and we intentionally write a lot of protocols that way to allow them to be adapted to environments. So just take CWT, for example, COTS. They're intentionally, they don't say which serialization to use, so you can use whatever one you want. You could make it streaming if you wanted to, although that's kind of weird, but and so
I think that if you don't specify anything about serialization, you assume a general purpose decoder. And you assume a general purpose encoder as well, such that you have to basically have a full CBOR implementation to receive.
So I'd split there's two things here. There is a specification that and if you're really doing this well, you want a normative specification that guarantees interoperability. And I don't think generic decoder, since generic decoder is not normatively defined, that doesn't get you the tight specification.
I would say that 8949 does describe, here are the allowed things, and you have to be able to decode all the things that are in 8949 unless the protocol built on top of it profiles it in some way.
But
I think all of 8949 is that specification is what I'm saying.
Yeah, interesting. This is it's not a normative definition.
Say more about that, about how what's not normative in 8949.
the definition of generic decoder, or generic.
Oh, I agree that we
Generic
don't have a name
library.
for it yet. I agree that we have no normative name for this yet.
And I mean, with EAT, which is a CWT, I took the position there that, EAT is not an interoperable protocol. You have to profile it to get an interoperable protocol. And there's several aspects of, EAT was kind of in for it in a couple of ways, particularly with COSE algorithms. COSE is not an interoperable protocol because it doesn't have any minimum to implement algorithms. Also, the claim sets in EAT are pretty open-ended. But I saw the CBOR serialization as a part of the profile, something that needed to be profiled to get an interoperable specification.
So I think that 8949 by itself is interoperable. I don't think you need to profile it in order to be interoperable. I think if you did profile it, it might be easier to get interoperability because you sand off some of the things that you didn't have to implement. But without any profiling, it's still interoperable. It's just a little bit larger to implement.
So I'd say there's the practical interoperability, which is the most important, and the generic decoder gets you that. And we've lived with that for the life of CBOR and all that. There's specification interoperability, where you look at two specifications. You look at the specification where two implementers get the specification. They don't get to talk to each other, and they get to do implementations on opposite sides of the galaxy, and they should be able to create an interoperable protocol. RFC 8949 is not enough in that case, because in that case you can one can legitimately choose definite length encoding and another indefinite length encoding. So you do not have that, and they don't, they're not doing generic.
But both of them would implement on the receive side all of 8949, and whether you sent definite or indefinite, it wouldn't matter.
Why? No.
If the spec that's using CBOR says references 8949 and says you shall encode with CBOR, then the receiver has to implement all of 8949, including both streaming and not streaming.
So CWT, for example, doesn't say what serialization to use.
But it does reference 8949 and says it's going to be CBOR, right?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it thinking about that, but probably, yeah, I would expect so, yeah.
All right, in which case, then you got to implement, the receiver's got to implement all of CBOR, including streaming.
I see.
Now, if you didn't want to have to implement streaming, then you could profile 8949 in your reference to it and say everything but streaming. And if we had a word for that, which we will in CDE or whatever, they would say basic.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that's.
Then the receiver could not implement streaming and could just only accept shortest length integers, etc.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that absent any specialization, you have to implement on the decode side in particular. You have to implement all of it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I hadn't really thought about the interpretation that way, but I will think about it, but it seems reasonable at this point. And
In
it's
which
probably,
case, having a word for that bottom layer would
Yeah.
allow you to skip over this conversation
yeah, no.
the next
It,
time.
that I agree that's something that we should clarify.
Yeah.
And probably have a word for and all that. I mean I think that seems reasonable to me. Yeah. I can't see the whole meeting session here, but that was a good, useful conversation. Vadim and Ira, do you have any other questions or comments on this? Particularly Go ahead.
I just that I think for at least a couple of years on the list and in discussions, we've been using the word generic decoder to mean that bottom box.
Oh, that's Barry, right?
No, that was Ira.
Oh, that was Ira. Okay.
And yeah, I think generic decoder would make good sense there for me. But I think it's both the encoder and the decoder.
Right. Yeah.
But
So if a protocol CWT calling it a protocol is a bit dubious, but anyway, if an interface of some form doesn't explicitly specify a profile, then the presumption is it depends on the full range of CBOR capabilities, meaning the variable length integers, etc.
Yes, and presumably it doesn't need any of the determinism or any of the
Right.
other boxes that any of these levels
Right.
tick
It
off.
especially doesn't need determinism in any sense.
Right.
It's the application copes without, requiring input. It's like receiving unnormalized Unicode. If you do, you can't compare it to anything, even in your own implementation.
yeah.
Not without normalizing it first. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that generic decoder is kind of a stand-in term for that, but I would prefer to have some sort of a more solid thing, because that's getting into a description of an implementation rather than a protocol description.
No, I think it's a protocol description that says that you're allowed to do all that stuff. It's all valid.
Yeah, I'm just saying that generic decoder. I don't know if that's the right term. I mean, that's.
Oh yeah, we can argue over the term. I don't care what we're
Right.
going to use.
Maybe generic in say, we're not talking about decoders or encodings here. Encoders here,
yeah.
particularly,
Sure,
we're talking about generic CBOR, period.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
There is a word in 8949 that we could. It's not. I think it's well formed.
Yeah, that could be. That sounds reasonable.
Because it still means that you can't use additional information 28, for instance. Right. That's still invalid in well formed.
Yeah, I think semantically that is correct.
So whether I don't know that that's descriptive enough or useful enough, but I think that is a word that's in 8949 that we could use for that box for the moment until we come up with a better name.
Yeah.
Well formed. All right. And it would make sense. It would make sense for a spec like CWT, for example, to say must send well-formed CBOR.
Yeah.
And then it would mean this box.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was useful. So I made a list of all the things that are variable. So this is the laundry list of variability in well-formed. And then I had another set of comments about this.
Can you go back to that previous slide for a second, please?
Sure.
So, I mean, what about the higher level stuff that's in the laundry list of things like unification of integers and big int, unification of integers and floats, you know, string encodings, etc.
Okay, so this is the list of the serialization variations, the ones that are intentionally allowed to be variable in CBOR. This is not anything to do with the data model.
Got it. It might be, if you're giving this again, it might be useful to have a slide that has data model variations.
Which are open-ended, but
I agree, but like a good number of examples, and then
Yeah.
making sure to say that it's open-ended is important.
yeah, okay. So then this slide here was to address the serialization variation versus the data model variation. So you know, at the bottom is all the different encoding variations, the serialization variation. Preferred serialization is odd. It's got this oddball in the unification of the number spaces for integers and big numbers. That's the exception. That's operating at the data model level. I mean, at the CBOR data model level, big numbers and integers are not the same thing. So preferred serialization unifies those. Is unify the right word for it? I don't think it's reduction.
What I think we formed an artificial equivalence class between small big ints and integers.
Okay.
And then said that since they're equivalent, there needs to be only one serialization for them.
Okay. I mean, does unified seem like a good word for that?
I'm making a face. I'm trying to decide.
Okay.
I can't think of a better one off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean there isn't a better one.
Yeah, okay. So, you know, then my next comment here is that, you know, at the top of the stack here, all of the encoding variation, all the serialization variation is eliminated. It's that gives you the determinism in the serialization. And then the top comment there is that, you know, only a few protocols have data model variability. It's not something that every protocol has. Whereas if you're using CBOR and you don't eliminate the serialization variation, you really do have some. You don't have determinism. So the data model variation is not exclusive to CBOR. Every protocol has it because every protocol, every kind of, you know, JSON or ESN1 or whatever you're doing, you can always say, you know, this value is represented by either, you know, this or that. For example, it doesn't work for JSON, but you could say this is, you know, the temperature is either a floating point or an integer. And when you do something like that, you introduce the variability in the data model. and you lose your determinism unless there's some, unless you do something about it. So there's to me, there's a pretty big, I mean, I think I spent at least 6 months not understanding the difference between these two, and it made it very hard to discuss this, and I got beat up a lot for saying the wrong thing over and over until I finally understood what it was. Then in my draft, I took the trouble to describe this carefully so that future people don't get beat up about not understanding this.
So Vadim commented that his microphone is malfunctioning, but he doesn't have objections to the diagram except the naming. And I asked him to clarify what he meant by that. But I agree that if these layers had different names that were more descriptive of the difference in that layer, because preferred and basic mean more or less the same thing to me. Yeah. All right. So he says basic is on the top and you expect it on the bottom. So I agree with that. So if we renamed these 3 boxes to be 3 different things that said, instead of preferred, it said shortest length or something that meant that. And instead of basic, it said definite length. And instead of, well, maybe deterministic, but whatever, but sorted would be easier to understand here. Then you'd know which layer you were talking about. You might not remember how they layered, but you would know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I wasn't attempting to, propose any names here. I'm not saying that the names
I agree.
here are anything I think we have to stick with. I just wanted to be clear about how they all relate to each other and what they do.
Yes, and I think this is good at capturing what we currently have.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't think there should be 3 here. I think what's labeled basic here should be merged with preferred. I think that distinction is not useful, and I think everybody has treated the definite length requirement in the definite length preference in preferred as a requirement, just because it's really weird to implement it in any other way or construe it in any other way. Okay, well,
And Vadim asks if we're stuck with the names because of 8949, or could they be changed? I think it's possible we could change them one day.
yeah,
But I think it requires careful specification work.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, if we change the names, I mean, I wrote massive emails on this complaining about the name CDE. If we change the names, I'm fine changing the name, but if we're all we're doing is changing the name, then say we're just changing the name for clarity. We say that. If we say we're not going to call this preferred anymore, we're going to call this, I don't know, something else.
Yeah.
We say we decided we thought preferred was not a very descriptive name, and we've used this name instead, but but the semantics are the same. If we're changing the name, to change the semantics, then we have to be explicit about what what semantics changed.
I'm all for being specific and explaining why we're doing things.
Yeah, because if you change a name and then you don't really have a good reason why you changed it, you don't say why you changed it, everybody's going to read it and well, what's the difference? Huh? Why? An implementer's got to have to figure that out, and it's like.
This is Ira. Given the number of existing IETF RFCs and drafts, reference CBOR and use it, and the large number of external standards bodies that have used it for years. I think changing names from 8049 is a losing battle and a real good way to just cause errors in implementations.
Yeah, I can understand that position too. I mean, that's the position I've taken generally. But I know Rohan in particular is interested in some different names, and names perhaps could be better, but
A terminology section in the CDE document, Karsten's or an other, that further clarifies the existing 8049 names and said a perhaps better name would have been X or Y because
yeah,
is fine. Definitions can have, detail.
yeah, that seems okay.
And I think that might be a middle ground that goes towards some of Rohan's comments and others of us.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's, I think, everything I had to say.
Is there any further discussion that we want to have today? So Lawrence, can you post to the list a summary of where you think this discussion got us, and what you think we still need to discuss when there are more people on the call?
Okay, yeah.
And also, please email me this slide deck, and I'll see if I can get it posted with the correct format.
Yeah, I'll try and see if the PDF I sent you was wrong, or what went wrong. I'm not sure what went wrong.
Okay, well, if you just email this to me, I'll make sure it gets uploaded correctly. So.
Yeah, well, this is Keynote, which I don't think you want.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I don't have Keynote, so I'll leave it to you to try to sort it out. But I'd like to make sure that the meeting materials has the
yeah
right version. So.
yeah. I'll take care of that.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you everybody for getting on, and I think this was a useful thing to do. So,
Yeah.
so thanks for that.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.